Welcome everyone. My name is John, I'm wearing a small maroon beanie, and it's time for another album review. Today's review is on one of my most anticipated records. That is a new record from very underrated artist, Roniit. Last year, Roniit released probably one of the most exciting art pop records, XIXI. XIXI was a very atmospheric, dark, electronic pop album with abstract poetic songwriting and beautiful melodies. The only real lag was on the production side of things, with some tracks sounding a bit too muddy in their mixes, but that's just me nitpicking, to be honest. And now, just 1.5 years later, Roniit is back with Bloom. So let's get right into it.
Epiphyte, I'm growing on your body, make room.
From the first track, I can already feel the influence of her frequent collaborator and, I think, partner, Justin Taylor Phillips, who you might know as Crywolf. Just like any Crywolf record, you have to whip out a fucking thesaurus every now and then to figure out the song titles. Apparently, epiphytes are a type of plant that grow on other plants. Stuff like moss and some orchids, apparently. And I mean, well, it fits well thematically with the album, especially looking at the album cover. Epiphyte is a nice little introduction to that album, showcasing, well, improved production and surprisingly raw instrumentation, and with a goddamn string arrangement. That was my fucking dream. I exploded when Echoes did it on their debut record, and now Roniit is doing it as well. I don't know what it is with electronic artists suddenly going with string arrangements that's so endearing to me, but I just love it. And well, it also transitions pretty seamlessly into the next track.
I can't escape, I am the maze, I am the maze, I am the maze, I'm tethered to.
First of all, let me just use my thesaurus again for this one. Lidocaine is a form of local anesthetic, sometimes used to treat heart arrhythmia. Anyways, Lidocaine is one of those songs you just disappear into. The string arrangement is even prettier than an Epiphyte. It's just some great guitar playing from, well, Crywolf himself, actually. Roniit brings some very hypnotic, whispery vocals over some just wonderful melodies. Like much of Roniit's music, this gives me the vibe of like dark, sinister lullaby sung by some witch of the woods or something like that. I mean that in the best way possible, of course. Then there's the interlude titled 9-12-19 Oblivion, which is more or less just an extended fade out of Lidocaine.
Why do I only see myself through you?
This title track harnesses Roniit's ability to use layered vocals to the max. Bloom is a very dynamic track with its flowy melodies. Like, I can't help but just move to the pre-chorus. After Bloom comes another interlude with some eerie sampling, specifically the sound of cicadas, which flows up into track 6, being Lelo Pollinate.
Gotta lay low, the heavens call for you.
Lelo strips it down to the string arrangement and some minimalistic guitar. It's perhaps one of the most pretty tracks on the entire record. It very well sounds like something that could have been made the same time as some of Crywolf's own acoustic stuff. Something along the lines of Your Joys, Your Sorrow Unmasked, for example. It's at this point I started taking issue with the interludes. Between almost every track there is some sort of eerie interlude, just like I Died of Love in Your Shadow here. And I'm sorry I keep name dropping Crywolf all the time, but these two artists are so interconnected for me. And Crywolf is one of, if not my favorite artist, so every chance I get to name drop him, I will take. On Crywolf's 2019 record, Widow, there is a similar saturation of interludes, but they just had a lot more substance. Like the way As It Is Infinite adds to Drip, or the interweaving of Fallout and Quicksoap through the use of It Was Broken Before I Got Here. Roniit has obviously taken inspiration from that, but these interludes just don't feel as effective. Solace is 3 minutes of pure musicality, with several layers of Roniit's voice vocalizing and harmonizing in different ways. There is some actual singing on there, but you can't really tell the lyrics or even if it's in English. Solace kind of feels like some ancient hymn praising the forest gods or something like that. And with a backdrop, the wonderful string arrangement, You were just immersed in this experience of praising the forest gods. The song fades into another interlude titled To Outsing the Wind, which features some haunting humming along with what sounds like wind chimes. It's a weird way to end off such a beautiful track, but it does, however, transition into the next track too.
Let me believe in myself.
According to my thesaurus, Imperial is just another word for heavenly or holy. And bro, is this track heavenly? Imperial is one of the more simple tracks on here, but the minimalism of it works very well in its favor, highlighting Roniit's voice and songwriting. Grief is the Price You Pay for Love is perhaps the most haunting interlude of them all, beginning with the ringing of funeral bells and turning into what seems like the soundtrack to Summoning the Earth Devil or some shit. It's creepy as fuck, man. Flows into Chimerical, which features some very plucky guitar and another gorgeous string arrangement. This 2-minute instrumental has a very fantasy vibe to it. You could definitely imagine hearing this in like a fantasy RPG or something like that. It's nice.
Smell like snow as we lay in these future memories.
Future Memories is the de facto closer of this album. The orchestration is stripped down all the way to just Roniit's voice and Kryle's guitar playing. Such an intimate performance, you can even hear Justin going, "You ready?" before they start the song. It's incredible hearing Roniit being so vulnerable on here, especially with the dreamy songwriting, but also her utilization of her higher register. In some ways, the song reminds me a lot of It Happened Quiet by Aurora, especially that one acoustic version of it, and that is one of my all-time favorite songs, and Future Memories presses almost all of the same buttons as that. Wow. Then there's the epilogical interlude, Living With My Heart Outside of My Body. Just imagine getting lost in the beauty of Future Memories, just to be thrown back into reality with this haunting 1-minute piece of noise. Funeral bells chiming again, the cicadas chirping, trembling voices, and just confusion. It's a weird dud to end off on this record, and I mean, I was halfway falling asleep listening to Future Memories because it was so dreamy, and then I just hear this interlude and wake up all of a sudden and completely take it out of the experience. Kinda ruins it in a way.
But I only see myself through you.
Bloom achieved pretty much exactly what it set out to do, creating an atmospheric record with imagery of forests, plant life, and growth. In many ways, Roniit has seen some growth on this record, with the production being more fleshed out and the instrumentation fuller, and overall just a more mature record. The only point of criticism I have is the interludes. They don't really add much to the experience. And honestly, sometimes they just pull you out of the atmosphere that these songs spend so much time building. I believe the album perhaps would have been better off without them, to be honest. And they kind of take away from the listen, if anything. Either way, this album is still great, and I'll give it a solid 8 out of 10. And well, that's it for this review. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.